Greetings. Okay, greetings. This is Dr. Brandy Marks, biblical licensed mental health counselor. And today we're looking at negative self-talk. You know, what do you do with negative self-talk? Well, negative self-talk is not really a good thing. It either takes place initially as we're becoming angry, anxious, depressed. One of the best ways to deal with that, first of all, is, you know, when you're depressed, you look down, you sort of slouch, you become depressed. Anxiety can have the same thing, you know, you crunch in on yourself. And instead, when you begin to feel this way, straighten up, take a deep breath, and look up and talk to God about it. There's no way you can be depressed or really anxious if you're taking a deep breath and discussing it with a God of your understanding. However, okay, we're going to look a little bit more of that later. But now let's talk specifically about negative self-talk. What can you do with it? Put it in a box for starters. If you messed up and said the wrong thing, instead of saying, oh God, I'm such an idiot, that's labeling you as an idiot. Excuse me, and we all know you're not. Instead say, well, that was not a bright thing to say or a smart thing, or that was a really dumb thing to say. See, and maybe it was not too smart or not too bright or not too dumb, or it was kind of dumb, but that doesn't make you a dumb person. We're saying, I'm such an idiot. That labels you as an idiot. And like I said, we all know you're not. Okay, another way that can help is visualizing. See a tiny box in your mind, and whatever the problem is, stuff it into the box. The size of the box fits the problem. If it's a huge problem, you can stuff it in that box, cram it in, and then see the box shrinking and getting smaller. Allow yourself to shrink it down once it's in the box, and then hand it over to God. Say, here, I'm giving this to you. Don't want to deal with it anymore. You take care of it, dude. Okay? Also, when you're berating yourself over saying the wrong thing to the maybe right person and you don't want to hurt their feelings, again, take a deep breath and hold your hand out and see the words in a pile on your hand there. Oh, there's a lot of words. They're all piled up on my hand, okay? Then imagine Jesus or in front of you or off to the side, whichever. If he's off to your left, then have that pile of crappy words in your left hand. If he's off to your right or in front of you, you could have them in your right hand. That would probably depend upon whether you're right or left-handed, of course. And then wherever you see him, however you see him, your God, Jesus, see yourself handing the handful to him. Just see it happening and say, you know, bring it on over to him. Hand it to him. Let go of it. And thank him for taking it from you. Say, thank you, Lord, for taking this from me because I can't deal with it anymore. Okay? That's one way to do it. Okay. Now, let's look at the power of possibilities. Research shows when you're feeling depressed, we've already looked at one way to deal with it physically. Deep breath, looking up, standing up. Okay. Don't tell yourself positives. I mean, so many people say, I'm not really depressed. I'm really feeling good about life is great. You know, half the time, most of the time, research shows you'll just feel worse. Consider possibilities instead and look up. When we're depressed, we tend to look down and talk in negatives to ourselves. Instead, look up, talk to God about your feelings and the outcome you genuinely would like to see. All things are possible with God. So ask for his solution to the problem, to whatever is bothering you. Then by faith, let it go. Okay? Okay, number 3, are you really guilty of whatever? Maybe at home you blurt out something you afterwards realized was hurtful. You didn't intend it that way, but it happened. Well, instead of ignoring it or blaming the other person, well, if you hadn't, then this wouldn't have happened. And we've all done that. Be patient and kind to yourself and the other person and question your initial thoughts. This diminishes the shame associated with the guilt. The more questions you ask yourself, the smaller the shame gets. You know, narrow it down to what the real problem is and what needs to happen instead of beating yourself up or blaming it on someone else. Then apologize and ask the other person's forgiveness. You know, I'm really sorry I did that. Can you forgive me? Okay? I truly didn't mean to hurt your feelings, to say that something that harsh. You know, use your own words. Causes of shame can be excess guilt for something, humiliation and embarrassment over something you said or did, pride and lacking of humility on your part, poor communication skills, so you cannot communicate effectively. So you can learn good communication skills, though. There's a book I recently bought, which I thought it teaches some great skills that most of us, excuse me, have heard of. But it's communicating non-violently. And the way that it's explained in this book is huge. It's really important. I think they bone it down to some very basic stuff. It's really great. The more questions, okay, you ask and look at, what were you thinking at the time? What did you say? How were you feeling? What could you have said and done differently? Okay, so learning some better effective communication that's nonviolent is really important. Addictions, negative compulsions, for example, and addiction recovery. In addiction recovery, we're learning a whole bunch of new skills, and it takes time. So remember, whether it's communication, self-talk, don't think it's going to change overnight. Chances are it took you years to learn those habits, and it's going to take some time to slowly unlearn them and replace those negative habits with more positive ones in communication or overcoming the addictions and compulsions, such as anger, anxiety, and panic attacks even. Okay, any number of things you can learn to manage more positively once you become aware of them and begin to let go of them. Don't try to get rid of them. Replace them with something more effective, more loving, because what Jesus said, love one another. Okay, number 4, put a better spin on it. Instead of telling yourself, oh God, I'm so disorganized, this is ridiculous, I can't do anything right, I'll never get anything done, say to yourself, no, it's okay. It seems impossible, but with patience, I can get this done in time. Okay, remember, I can get this done. I can't do this. I saw one guy in the NLP show, he says, he wrote it different. He says, I can't do this. And he said, write it this way instead. I can not. You break up the word can't into can not do this. And that way your brain hears it as I can softly not do this. So your brain hears it, and I can do this. Okay, so you change how your unconscious mind is perceiving this. Okay. If you make a really dumb mistake, instead of saying I am so stupid, as in the beginning, I feel so stupid, which is what's going on. We're not stupid, but we feel stupid in that moment. And it's okay to make mistakes. Also, I'm not perfect, and I don't need to be. It's okay to make dumb mistakes. I'm a pretty smart person. Okay? Okay. Number 5, check out your self-talk. A quick way to stop negative self-talk is to think of what a friend that you trust might say to yourself. Ask yourself, what would she or he say to me if I said this to them? Likely the friend would say, well, was it really that bad? I was watching when that was going on. I didn't think it was that bad. I understand you're feeling awful about it. But ask yourself, was it really that bad? If you wouldn't say it to your friend, to a friend, for example, don't say it to yourself. You spill spaghetti or drip it on your shirt or whatever, you think, oh, what a slob I am. Well, why? You wouldn't say that to your friend. You would say, boy, what a slob you are. Of course we wouldn't. So what my stepdad always used to say was, he would laugh and say, you look great in anything you eat. And it's something negative language-wise towards a person. I can't remember offhand what he would say. Anyway, let's move on. Laugh about it. Find a funny way to say it to yourself. Give your inner critic a name. That's another way to do it. Okay, preferably a silly one. Goofy girl, nitty Nancy, jittery Joe, watchful Willie. Naming it something goofy adds some humor to it, of course. It helps to break through the emotional hold this has over you. And in time, this short circuits the whole anxious cycle. I joined an organization once upon a time, and I was supposed to write an autobiography. So I wrote this wonderful little story about my garden and being in recovery and how I was growing these pretty flowers and plucking out the weeds. And then I got to the part about where I had my firstborn son out of wedlock, and I was living with my mom, and she knew as much about, or I learned from her as much about parenting as she knew, which was absolutely nothing. And I was really kind of irritated about that. I was still angry at my mom for some stuff. But this person read it, and she said, She says, that is so funny. I love your sense of humor. And I thought, well, I wasn't being humorous. I was really kind of pissed off at my mom. But, you know, listening to what this woman said, to reframe what I had written, you know, was to give me a humorous view of it. And I began to use that more in life when I was talking about my past, putting it out there as a humorous episode, something to be laughed at now. And of course, the more distance we have between that critical thing that's going on in our life, that person or ourselves and what we're doing, you know, can change our perception of it. Adding humor to it definitely improves the situation. So, and your rants. I love going on rants. People on Facebook are always saying really stupid things, okay? They're not stupid, but they're saying stuff that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. They haven't looked at the research or the truth of the matter. So I will go on and rant about it. My one son loves listening to my rants, okay? So think of your inner rants as you realize, I say that all the time. I'm always going on a rant about that. With yourself, for example. You could think of your inner rant as a story and give it a title. My friends are better than me story, or, oh, well, I don't get enough done story, or, yeah, this is a stupid me story that does a lot of stupid things, or whatever. You know, instead of giving it valid feedback, or instead of it being a valid feedback, it highlights how consistent the stories are. What are you always telling yourself? Turn it into the title of a story, a movie, whatever, and how you see it playing out. We have pretty much the same thoughts today as we had yesterday. It's fairly consistent. It's a pattern, a habit we form, which should clue us into the fact they're habits, not necessarily truths. Any habit can be changed. You know, we can replace a nasty habit with a better habit. You know, the Bible says, don't get rid of it. You clean your house and sweep it all out and you walk away and you come back. And if you didn't replace that old stuff that you cleaned out with something new, those demons of despair, hopelessness, and clutter and clang are going to come back in 7 times stronger. Okay, so you clean out your closet, replace that empty closet or whatever with something positive and healthy. Don't just get rid of the habit or try to. Trying is lying. You know, you either do it or you don't. But instead of getting rid of it, replace it. Okay, pick up the phone is number 8. Shame only works if we keep it secret, hidden within, too ashamed to bring it out of the closet into the light of day. You know, Jesus had a wonderful way of speaking the truth and revealing what was really going on and saying, quit pretending you're not a hypocrite when everybody can see that you are. Be honest with yourself. Well, he didn't say it in these words. I'm really elaborating here. Okay, but that's pretty much what he was saying. Quit being a hypocrite. If you're a total jerk, confess it. Do what you can to replace jerk behavior with loving behavior and become a better person. Okay, so if you get in the car and imagine someone said something stupid or the driver next to you, you know, either imagine you're talking to your friend and say, well, I'm in a total shame downward spiral. Here's what happened. I just said or did this awful thing. You know, when I see myself being a total jerk behind the wheel of a car, which can happen on a daily basis if I'm not careful. My son called me on some snafu behavior I had yesterday. And, you know, when I'm by myself, you know, with my son, the scenario went totally different. You know, I was kind of embarrassed by my behavior. So I was kind of sideways making excuses for it, which shame on me because I should not be doing that. It's easier to do with a person. With myself alone in the car, though, and I told myself, yeah, I can talk to God about it. And that helps me change my behavior because God does not shame me or try to embarrass me with the truth. He just says, hey, pay attention to what you're doing, girl. Get over it and replace it with some more loving behavior. Okay. It stops the shame cycle when you tell someone, God, what happened? Family, maybe can, anyway, we won't go there. We don't have time for that. That can be another lesson down the road. Embrace your imperfections. We all have plenty of them. I certainly do. Okay. Successful perfectionists never say, I achieved everything I have because I'm such a nitpicking perfectionist. Of course they don't. They credit their success to a willingness to make mistakes and move on. So relax your standards a little. Give yourself a break, just like you would a friend. hopefully anyway, it will be so much easier to take on the nag, the nitty Nancy, the nitpicker, the blustery Brandy, or whatever, you know. Jesus had a lot of opposition in his life, and while he seemed to never make mistakes with people, he likely succeeded because he had a positive attitude about life and all of us. You know, he always looked for the best in people and always suggested positive change. He didn't berate or beat anybody up. He suggested positive change. You know, C.S. Lewis made this statement about him. He says, a man who is merely a man and said the sort of things Jesus said would not be a great moral teacher. He would either be a lunatic on the level of a man who says he's a poached egg, okay, I can see that, or he would be the devil of hell. You must make your choice. Either this was and is the Son of God, speaking of Christ, or else a madman or something even worse, the devil himself. Well, I added the devil himself in. You can shut him up for a fool, or you can fall at his feet and call him Lord and God's Savior. But let us not come with any patronizing nonsense about his being merely a great human teacher. He did not leave that open to us. Okay, he was very straightforward about who he was. Okay, let's look at the claims of Jesus and why he didn't get stuck in depression, sadness, and whatever. Christ claimed to live a sinless life. In John 8, verses 46 to 47, he says, can any of you prove me guilty of sin? None of them could, not without lying. And they did plenty of that after his arrest. Okay, if I am telling the truth, he said, why do you not believe me? He who belongs to God hears what God says. The reason you do not hear, you do not belong to God. Jesus Christ claimed to be the only way to God, and a lot of people have trouble with this. He claimed not to be one of several gods, but the only way. It's not a trail through witchcraft and Mormonism and the Jehovah's Witness or the Islamic faith or anything like that. He's the only way. Now, it's not to teach the way, but is the way to God. Jesus backed up his claims by his love, balanced life, and miracles. John 14:6, he says, I am the way, the truth, the life. No one comes to the Father but by me. No other world religious leader has ever made this claim. Now, and I understand some of you out there may have different beliefs about that, and that's okay. Maybe you're getting angry at me because of what I believe. That's okay too. But don't ask me to change my beliefs. You're welcome to your beliefs. If that's what you believe, then more power to you. This is what I believe. I accept that you have certain beliefs that may be different than mine. Well, give me the courtesy of accepting my beliefs and being okay with them as being different from yours. It's like homosexuality or transgender issues. I believe God created us all a certain way. I don't subscribe to that belief. But if you do, those are your beliefs and they're okay for you. You know, on Judgment Day, God is not going to ask me about you. He's only going to ask me about me and what I believe. I believe in Jesus Christ, that he's the Son of God, and he saved me from my sins. I encourage you to do the same, and don't worry about the rest. He will lead you and guide you to the truth himself, because he is the truth. Okay, there's a whole bunch more, but we don't have time for it, so God bless. I hope this was insightful for some of you, and have a wonderful Christmas. Bye-bye. This is Dr. Brandy Marks, Biblical Licensed Mental Health Counselor. Let me turn this off here. See you the next time around.